Thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. So I woke up to what was a stunning morning after a decent night's kip in the van, and it was time to head off and explore some more areas of Dumfries and Galloway. So good morning guys, and welcome back to southwest Scotland, beautiful Scotland. I tell you what, I had a good sleep in the van last night. I had a wonderful little park up. It was cosy, and I spent the evening watching a documentary on the rise of Nazism. So yeah, that was pretty interesting. And you're finding me this morning in a gorgeous ancient oak woodland. This is one that I've wanted to visit for a while. To be fair, probably not the best time of year to be visiting a woodland, but we'll see what happens when the light comes up. He's going to come up and over them hills there, and it might change the way things look in here. You know, there's photographs to be had any time of the year, so I will try my best to be getting the Z7 out. I can also hear some waterfalls down here as well, so I'll have to go and check them out. But this is how I'm going to spend the morning, and yeah, we'll see what happens. I'll tell you what, I don't think I've ever spent a morning that's just been so good for your head. This is such a gorgeous woodland. These burns that are flowing through it are fantastic. Oh man. So it's these burns and all these little waterfalls that have caught my eye. These, so far at least, these are what I've been wanting to photograph, and this is the most impressive one that I've seen so far. Now the only thing is, it's requiring us to be in a bit of a very precarious position. We're basically perched on 2 or 3 rocks. It's slippy, we're in the middle of the burn. It's not good, but it's all for the sake of composition and more specifically for the sake of perspective. So I'm actually shooting this particular waterfall here a bit different than how I'd shoot waterfalls in general, in that I'm actually shooting it really wide. And that's because I want to capture the whole of this gorge, this woodland. It's not just all the falls and the burns. It's got all these really impressive gorges, man, that have just been carved out by this rushing water over the centuries, over thousands of years. So I feel like it'd be a shame not to capture it. I've got the polarizing filter on the front of the lens, which is working absolute wonders here to get rid of any of the reflections on this water. As I'm looking at this water now, in real time, it is just pure black, man. It's gorgeous, and that contrasts so well with them, you know, the cascades, the white cascades. So the waterfall itself is just right up in the top left corner somewhere, 24mm. As you can see there, look, I'm angled down just a little bit so that I don't have any sky in the frame. It's all about the waterfall, and it's all about this gorge. And then all I've got to do now is make sure I select the correct shutter speed for me. Little bit of trial and error. It looks that around about 1/8 of a second is working well for me. Now at f11, I do have to bump the ISO up to ISO 2000 for that to work, because the sun hasn't risen yet and it is dark. You know, we're in this little gorge. So I'll grab that one now, and that is, oh, I like the way that looks. That's a nice one to start off the morning, and a really unexpected one to start off the morning as well. Worth the dodgy position. Put this filter away before I break it, man. I can see it coming. So I'm having a bit of a punt here at a photograph that I don't know if it's going to work. It could all go to pot. It's one of those, right, where the scene looks so nice and the idea that's in my head is quality, I promise you. But I don't know if it's going to work as a photograph, or I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it work as a photograph, I suppose I should say. It's quite tricky, there's a lot going on. I'm shooting wide at 14mm, which is mad in this sort of scene. So what's going on is I'm actually just at the top of the waterfall that we just shot in that gorge. And as I walked up, I just sort of peered over the top of it, and then the sun peeked out through the trees, and then we're sort of looking out of the woodland into, I don't know really, a bit of a clearing where there's some sporadic lone trees. And the light, man, the light, it's started to fade a little bit now, but it was so gorgeous. It was on these trees here that are behind you. It was on this dry stone wall, this moss-covered dry stone wall. And yeah, it was really piercing through the trees on the other side of this burn. So I had this idea of a Sunstar photograph. So as quickly as I could, I stuck my 14 to 30mm lens on, because that's where I can get the best Sunstars. Put it into f/16, and I'm at ISO 100 and 1/6 of a second again. And I'm shooting directly into the sun. I'm doing it in one photograph. I'm not needing to bracket or anything like that. So the 1/6 of a second, again, like the last photograph, is giving us nice movement in the burn, in that water. And because I'm so wide, I'm capturing a little bit of this dry stone wall in the foreground, and it's all about that light, like piercing through, like I said, into the scene. And then it's actually illuminating some of the trees behind you guys as well, but it's also like subtle, you know, that beautiful morning light. So, oh, like I said, not a clue if this is going to work. It might look horrendous. I apologise if it does. I've wasted your time. But we've always got to have a crack, haven't we, when we get that idea in our head as photographers. Right, this is going good. This is going good, you know. Wow! How freaking cool is that? I was heading back to the van, guys, just thinking like, yeah, that was a really lovely morning to walk around. Not sure if I got any good, you know, one of them where you just think, it was all right. I stumbled across this absolute mammoth. What a beast. So, this is my favourite part of landscape photography now, this bit. We've seen a mint looking subject, gets you all buzzing excited, and then this stage where you're like, right, how do I photograph this beast? That is the challenge. So I have properly enjoyed this little challenge of composition here. Naturally, to start off with, guys, I really wanted to get some foreground in. Of course, I was going to shoot the big boy in the background, but I thought it'd be a nice way to lead up to him. But up and down the burn, I just couldn't make it work, man. It's too chaotic, too many dead branches, dead leaves, a lot of foliage sticking into the falls, you know. So I feel like this was the only perspective that I could work with without having anything protruding into the waterfalls, you know, in the composition. So what I'm doing here is I've got the 24 to 200mm lens on, and I'm zoomed in about 90mm, something like that, and I'm trying to get something quite abstract, you know. I'm in a portrait orientation, as you can see, and I've popped it into a 5x4 or a 4x5 aspect ratio, and I feel like it's working so well. I'm just filling the frame with cascades. It's all about the movement of the water, and it's about the white cascades contrasted with them deep black rocks. Absolutely fantastic. So 1/6 of a second, you know, the correct shutter speed in this instance is imperative. That looks perfect to me. f11 and I had to bump the ISO up very slightly to ISO 80 to allow me to get that. But yeah, there's a couple of sections. I'll put it up on your screen now actually. This is the first section that I'm working with. Feels like a really nice balance of cascades, a few little rocks on show as well. And then there's another section that I might photograph as well. But this feels like the best way to photograph these falls. Absolute quality. What a find, man, what a find. So usually when I come out on these photography road trips, I bring books with me. I love them, and then I, chill in the back of the van, use the books and use OS maps on my phone and that to figure out where I'm gonna go. But on this particular adventure, I forgot my frigging books, which was a downer. So I've only really been using OS maps and the internet. Now for sunset, I would love to try and get to a coastal location because I feel like I've done a bit of a hike. I've done a bit of woodland, and now I'd like to finish up on the coast. So what I'm doing is actually putting it on my Instagram, as you may be able to see there. Just asking for some recommendations. Dumfries and Galloway, coastal photography spots. South Coast preferred, just because I'm kind of closer to there, and it's on the way home. So we'll see if I get any responses to that. That'd be good, wouldn't it? Now then, what time are we on now? 10:30. Time for a bit of breakfast. Time for a bit of brekkie. Let's go and find a cafe. So after a quick browse on the old Google Maps, I set off to the nearest town of Newton Stewart with only one thought in mind: Scottish food. I'll tell you what, ladies and gents, that was a breakfast that was thoroughly enjoyed. So time for a bit of chill now. I want to show you this. I was meant to show you on the first night, but they've since been snaffled, hence the terrible presentation. But that's because it was so nice. Lone sausage and brown sauce flavour crisps. Oh, the first night that I got here was Burns night here in Scotland, and they had a load of cool stuff in the supermarkets, and I grabbed myself a bag of these beasts, and I'm raging that they're only special edition. Now, before we move on with today's adventure, I want to say another really big thank you to today's video sponsor, which is Squarespace. I'm so grateful for their support of my YouTube channel. If you don't know who Squarespace are, they're an all-in-one platform that you can use to build your own website. And the biggest selling point of Squarespace for me is that it's so easy. I was well intimidated about the prospect of building my own website, but with Squarespace there's absolutely no need. It's so easy, trust me. They've got loads of templates that you can use to get yourself up and running, and then you can just edit that template along the line, and really start making that website your own. But you can have your website up and running genuinely within a couple of hours through Squarespace, which is class. And they've got wonderful e-commerce options as well. If you'd like to sell some prints at some point down the line like I do, you can do that through Squarespace as well. I wouldn't be able to run my business without my Squarespace website. It's as simple as that. They've also got fantastic customer service as well. You can just drop them an email if you're struggling with something, and they'll get back to you. Absolutely brilliant. So if you'd like to give Squarespace a go, head over to squarespace.com/Henry Turner and make sure you use the offer code Henry Turner at checkout to get yourself 10% off your first purchase. That'll all be in the video description below. Right, time for a little bit of TV now, I think. so I've had a nice little bit of a chill in the van, just because it was quite early, you know. I've essentially come to this spot to be here for the sunset period, so getting all suited and booted, ready to go down to the coast, and I'm looking forward to shooting this subject. It's quite a specific subject, so let's head down. So welcome to the coast of Dumfries and Galloway, and more specifically to Southern S. This is Southern S Lighthouse, and it's actually the second oldest lighthouse in all of Scotland, constructed in 1749. And isn't it beautiful? What a subject this is going to be for this evening's photography. I forgot to say actually, when I was back at the van, I put that thing there on my Instagram, didn't I, asking for some recommendations for locations. I did get a few back, so if you're watching, anybody that sent any out, thank you very, very much. But I ended up just looking online and finding this and just made a beeline for it really. It was sort of on the way home as well, so it was ideal. As you're looking at it there, the sun should be setting somewhere off behind it, so I'm going to sort of stick around this side of the lighthouse. The tide is coming in fast, and it looks really messy down here, and it is really messy actually, but it means there's lots of different opportunities for foreground. You know, we've got driftwood, loads of different rocks, like these tufts of grass, little rock pools, there's all sorts. I've actually just taken a photograph already, probably more a bit of a test shot than anything, because I am feeling hopeful that the light is going to get a little bit better, or at least the colour. And it was basically using the reflection of the lighthouse in the middle of the frame. Shot it in portrait dimension. I reckon it'll look pretty cool. Conditions weren't the best when I took the shot, like I said, but probably came out all right. And yeah, just going to chill around here for a bit, see what happens as the evening progresses. It's gorgeous, man. It's so still as that water slowly comes in. It's really cool, you know, whether the tide's coming in or out, it doesn't matter. It just creates different foreground opportunities right before your eyes. It's amazing, I love that. So it's changed even since about 10 minutes ago, because this is coming in quick. It's a bit dodgy actually, because it keeps creating loads of little islands, so you need to watch your feet. I just wanted to show you as well, this is really cool, for me it is at least. Over the other side of the Solway Firth there is the Lake District, man, and it's the Lake District Fells. It looks incredible. I tell you what, it looks weird, I have to say that as well, because I'm not used to seeing the Lakeland Fells from this perspective, so it almost feels like Lakeland in a parallel universe or something. That's the only way I can describe it. I even find it difficult to pick out which fells are which. Perhaps in that universe that is Scotland over there and this is England. Maybe I've been on the road for too long. It's only been 2 nights. I spent a good bit of time waiting for the light and experimenting with different compositions. It was beginning to look like the light would never come, however, and the distant low clouds confirmed my suspicions. I couldn't leave the beach without grabbing a quick panorama of that Lakeland scene though. So yeah, it's looking like that test photograph that I got early on of the lighthouse was probably the best one of the evening. It was, you know, it was just that same old story of them low clouds snuffing out the sunset, but not to worry. And I'll show you that panel in a second. And I just want to say another massive thank you to you for your continued support of my work and of my channel. It really means the world. And cheers for joining me on this little Scotland adventure. I hope you like the little panel at the end. Bit of a memory shot, if anything. But yeah, I shall see you on the next adventure. Out.